Hey guys, Colin here, thanks for joining us. So, as a bit of an update, last week we were talking about snakes and snake avoidance training, and we were keeping your dogs away from snakes so that when you're out bushwalking or they're around the property and a snake does come through, then they're not going to go up to the snake, and you can teach them that. Now Seth, thank you very much for your time last week and explaining. I love the point about 10 by 10. If you can expose your dog to 10 snakes in 10 different areas, 10 different snakes, you're actually going to almost pretty well guarantee your dog's going to be snake proofed. What we'll talk about today is how to isolate different areas around your property so that whether you're home or not, the dog's not going to go into any risky areas. Now this can be used to stop your dog escaping, stop them running through open gateways, and also stop them going into garden beds. And if you want to go through to the groundskeeper pet barrier that will do very small areas around the property, then click on the link and you can go and download the form to see what's to actually get the information pack, and we can give you some pricing. So we'll go through how it works. One big mistake I did, the reason why we're 3 minutes late, is I went down to Officeworks, and that's like a big toy world for business owners, and I went a bit crazy. So sorry about being late. Now I'm going to draw a few things, but I'll give you a quick summary of the groundskeeper. What happens is we supply a kit, and inside the kit is everything you need for one dog, including wire, transmitter, transformer, and the radio dog collar. Now this will react whether you're home or not. So basically, when you get the systems, we have everything wired up. You can plug them in and they'll work straight away. So that collar's working right now, and I'll explain the wire layout and how you can do that. Now, Emma and Marcus, thanks so much for your time and bringing the team in. Really love to see Sweet Pea and Red, and we keep forgetting the name of the tiger snake, but he was really quite cool as well. So thanks for that, guys. Now, when Emma was talking, she was saying that snakes quite often will move through the property. They're not going to hang around too long. I have heard a rumour from someone that since they had our radio dog fence up, the snakes haven't come through, but that's not been tested, and neither has it been proved. The other thing Emma was saying is that if you're going to keep snakes out of your garden beds, you need to make sure you keep them tidy. Don't give snakes anywhere to hide, because they will hide and wait, and they'll keep travelling looking for prey. And they'll follow walls and then just move along those walls, because that's where their prey run up and down the walls. Now, the other thing she said as well, that if you've got attractants like chooks, which attracts mice and that sort of thing, that's going to be a bit of a problem. And sort of dark areas. If you see one, keep an eye on it, keep your dog away from it. Tune into our last video, which is available on our website as well, about snake proofing using a remote dog training collar. Right, so what happens with this kit? I will explain how this system can be used to isolate different areas around your property, including areas where you think snakes might frequent. So with this system, it comes in a kit form. What's happening is the radio signal travels around the wire, and it comes back to the transmitter. The transmitter's job is to block the radio signal. So when it blocks the radio signal is trapped inside the wire. If this is was a CB radio in a car, the radio signal would go up the aerial. I'm going to test my artistic ability here. Which colour shall we take? Thanks very much, Officeworks, for sponsoring us today. Oh no, they didn't sponsor us. We are still looking for a sponsor. Okay, so if this was a radio inside a car and the radio signal went up the aerial and transmitted forever, that would leave the aerial and go out. But if you ran this radio wire to your boundary, the aerial to the transmitter, and you ran it around the property like that, and then you went back to the transmitter's job is to block the signal, so there's nowhere for it to go. So what happens then is, when you turn up the range control, the little dial on the bottom of the transmitter, you can actually push the dog further away from the wire. So if you have the wire on the fence and the radio signal comes out a metre and a half, or even 30 centimetres if you've got a small property and you're just a very skinny garden bed, you can turn our system right down. You can push the dog as far away as you want from the wire. So you have wire, radio signal, and a circular radio signal around. So it'll look something like this all the way around the property. So you've got this sort of barrier going on. The other thing to consider is that when the dogs go into the signal, we're going for green, because green means okay, there's going to be a little barrier around that signal, which is a warning zone. So you're isolating, you're telling the dog before they get into those areas that there is a warning, they're in the wrong area using a warning zone on the beeper. Now with ours, as a side note, if the dog sits in the warning zone for a while, he gets a ping from the collar and that'll stop him running down the battery. So the batteries in our system will last up to 2 years. In fact, we have an 8-month battery guarantee that we've just introduced. Now, that's how it works. The funky thing is with our system, because we have a regulated power supply, it won't allow energy spikes from your mains to come in and boost the radio signal and jump across the property and cause the dog to be corrected in the wrong areas. We only want him to get corrected when he's in the areas where you decide you want the radio signal. So the funky thing that happens is orange. If you want to isolate different areas, the radio signal travels in one direction up the wire, and it goes around the property pretty much, for the sake of an argument, in one direction. So when it comes up here and it comes back in this direction, touching 2 wires together will neutralise the radio signal, so the dog can actually walk across purple this area without a problem. That opens up a lot of opportunity. So if you get a system where the radio signal's not going to jump around, and also you can control how much energy gets to the radio signal so it's not going to fluctuate between the different areas, you can do something like this. If you've got a chook yard and you've got the radio barrier around your property like this, coming from the transmitter in the shed, and the radio wire comes out here, if you have something like an area which is a nice garden bed, or you have chooks over in the corner and you're worried, or you've got a nice bushy native plant display over here, and this is bushland, and you're worried about snakes being in these areas, what you can do is you can run the wire. If you cut the wire and join onto it, you can run the wire to this garden bed, go around the garden bed, and run the wire back and rejoin it. So the radio signal, trying to remember which colour's which, the radio signal travels up there. You've opened up a loop, so you get a radio barrier around this garden bed and you can follow the contours, and then the radio signal operates down there, so the dog can walk across red. No, we'll go yellow because the dog has to walk across this area. So the dog can walk across that area without getting corrected, which opens up a few possibilities. And also, if you want to bend the radio signal around a garden bed, you'll have the radio signal coming down here, and you can bend it around this area and continue it on down the journey. So this whole area where it could be a snake zone is out of bounds. And that's going to happen whether you're home or not. So if you don't trust your dog to not go near a snake that might wander through your property, you might think, well, that's an area where they might go because you've got chooks in that corner. You can actually run the wire around that corner and cordon off the chook zone. And we've even done properties where the chooks have the back of the property, and we've run the wire down. What's the wire colour? Blue. We've run the wire down here and then come across the property and zigzagged it. So this whole area here is dog free. And this might be your native garden area. It might be your, it might be where the chooks go and you want the dog to stay in this area at all. So some people are even getting the system to do gateways. If you have a gate going across here and that's your driveway, you can bring the wire out, touch the 2 wires together to neutralise the radio signal, bring the wire along here, go across the driveway, and we like to come inside the property a bit and then go across the driveway again, and that means that you push the dog that little bit further away from the open gate. So if you're looking at making sure that you can isolate different areas around this property and have a reliable system so that radio signal doesn't jump across the property, you could get you could give us a call or click on the link to go to the web page and have a look at the groundskeeper and isolate different areas, which will give you a guarantee that if the dog is on your property and you're not home, he's not going to go into those danger zones. And yeah, just remember to keep your property snake free. Make sure there's nowhere for them to hide. Keep the bushes trimmed so that there's no sort of nice spaces they can wait in hiding. And also do some dog training with your dog as far as dog proofing. Now, getting on to the questions that we had last week about snake proofing your dog. We had a couple of queries about can you use fake snakes, and what about snake skin? You can use snake skins for scent training. I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference. The scent is one aspect. There's the movement aspect in the bushes, and there's also the response from the snake which turns the dogs on. But just remember the 10 by 10 rule. If you are going to try, if you don't have access to snakes, always best to use snakes. Obviously, get in touch with one of the dog trainers, and you could use different variety of plastic snakes. So anything long and slithery, you could train the dog, but make sure you use a good quality dog training collar. There's a lot on the market that we've seen at the moment that are not actually passed by the Australian Communication and Media Authority, and they are illegal to use in Australia, basically. So don't get caught using one. I wouldn't buy one unless you can see that sort of evidence that it's actually passed, and that's a subject we'll be looking closely at. In a few weeks' time, we are going to be possibly chatting with Gary Jackson and talking about some of the books he's going to be releasing. So stay tuned, because that'll be an amazing conversation. Anyway, we'll leave it there, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Always great to have you on TDL TV. And don't forget to #live, #snake avoidance training, and also share this, please, because this is good information that might just save a dog's life. Okay, tune in next time, same bat channel. See you then.